this, it's hard to see, but this is a huge resort along the highway. It's relatively new. And the name of the resort is Hawaii. So if you can't go to the real Hawaii, you can go to Hawaii Golf Club in Kyrgyzstan. Okay. Anyway, and then along the way, there's all these places to stop and get hot dogs and food as you're going down to the lake. Okay. And then the next one is the most interesting toilet sign that I saw on the whole trip. Now you might say, why is this necessary? Well, if you think about people that live in yurts and tents, and basically have what a lot of us have seen when we travel, France up until the 1980s probably still, there aren't a lot of Western-style seated toilets around the world. And so if you are someone who is not experienced with that kind of plumbing device, you may not know how to use it. And apparently, the Kyrgyz, especially on this particular route where a lot of Kyrgyz go back and forth from the cities to the lake, need to be reminded of how you use this Western toilet. And so this is, you know, this up here in Kyrgyz is basically, it says toilet etiquette. So it's suggesting that, you know, what you're supposed to do is sit on this one, not stand and aim.
Yeah, but they usually squat. I've never seen anybody stand and aim.
What, you have, well, I hope you haven't, but you've never done that, Meg, I'm sure. So anyway.
You stand on top of the toilet. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You could stand up and then fall off, maybe, and that would be a problem too. But anyway, I thought that was, yep.
Not to be too disgusting, but what is toilet etiquette in a yurt or out in the nomadic?
Well, what they are basically just trenches, you know, dug and things like this, and you basically straddle the trench. And then when you get ready to move to the next encampment, you just cover it up and things like that. So anyway, let's move on. Okay. Anyway, the other gross thing I have is these various kinds of horse dishes that you can get in restaurants. And, you know, when you're reading it in Russian or in Kyrgyz, it says, oh, okay, I can understand that. But then you see somebody translate it into English, you know, and it's somehow, you know, I mean, I mean, a lot of us, I mean, I've eaten tripe before, and I guess tripe is a nice way of saying, what? The rectum of an animal, or the intestines. Stomach. Okay, well, there's, okay, it's tripe stomach, just stomach.
Okay. They eat fat, they just eat big hunks of
but anyway, but I thought this was really great. On the menu at this place, at the same place that there was the instructions about the toilet, they had a very nice English translation of what zalu is. So, moving right along.
Did you like that? Did you like the horse food?
I like the sausage. Yeah, it's smoked sausage, and it's pretty good. But anyway, so then we're driving along, and you start to see horses. And the odd thing is that you will see, and I'm not sure if I have any pictures in this set, you'll see kids on horseback, mostly boys, but some girls, watching animals, you know, like being shepherds or a cowboy. And just like you would imagine probably in Wyoming or any place else in the world now, I saw probably half a dozen instances of a kid on a horse watching, say, 100 sheep or 50 goats or cows or something like that. Sitting on the horse, leaning back, texting on his smartphone, because there is cell service everywhere over there, even though there's not landlines. And they're just working their smartphones, just, you know, like kids over here do, and things like that. But the interesting thing is you never saw them guarding horses. Because horses basically, they all belong to people, and they all have brands, just like that we do. But everybody knows whose horses they are. Now, you know, maybe Ella, you can tell the difference between the Killarney kid and the next door horse. I probably can't right away. but you find horses just roaming free everywhere in, around Kyrgyzstan. And they always seem to be going somewhere or feeding. They seem to be forming and breaking apart. And nobody much cares. I mean, it's, they're not getting into anybody's garden. And everybody seems to sort of know where they are, and maybe, who knows, once a month you go around and collect your own horses to do something with them or whatever.
How do they know what side of the road to, I mean, they're like doing it.
Well, that's a good question. So this is, if these are smart horses,
Yeah.
I guess they've decided they're going to not interfere with traffic going up this way. But it was interesting to see that these horses are really independent animals, and they just sort of wander around and
they feed themselves.
and feed themselves, and are doing just fine, thank you very much. Okay. Then we get up into this valley, and as it's hard to see, but there is a forest of about 500 or 600 yurts up against that tree line there. And we are getting up into this ethnic village where a lot of the sports that you could do outside were, but not the kokbaru, the rugby on horseback. Okay, and again, you see, just walking out toward all these hills, here's a guy he's from Kazakhstan, it says on his t-shirt, and he's got his golden eagle, and he's just walking along there, probably going up to the competition. And then when you get there, there's just tons of people, and here you can sort of see this saddle here, Meg? You see it's got a saddle blanket over it as well, and it's got a kind of a pommel in the front, and it's got sort of what do you call the back part of the saddle?
The cantle.
The cantle, like that. And again, you don't tie up the horse, you just sort of leave them, and some people are sitting and watching, so let's go on. And a lot of people are in their traditional costumes. There's a funny thing later on in which one of the women archers from Texas is describing, the instructions were that you're supposed to wear your native costumes. And they were discussing among themselves what is a native costume for an American to wear. And they decided it would be a cowboy hat and cowboy boots. So it's Western apparel, not Native American apparel and things like that. But and most everybody has the name of their country across the back. And there was about 6 different teams of all these sports from different parts of the Russian Federation. Because there's a bunch of states in the Russian Federation, like Tuva, like Altai, like Bashkiristan, Tatarstan, that are all nomadic cultures that play a lot of these sports. And each of them brought teams to these games. And so you would basically see them wandering all around, all talking on their cell phones. Okay? And everybody just standing up, and you can see the backs of the saddles here. Some of these cantles that look like they're actually a bar you could hang onto, like that guy. And way off in the background is the archery, the short range archery. Let's go on to the next one and see, okay. And here's one of the United Arab Emirates guys that was there talking to a couple of the Kyrgyz kids and things like that. Everybody just having a great time sitting and watching the events going on. Okay, next. And this guy is a Kyrgyz guy that won the eagle hunting contest. And there's all sorts of, the question if you remember, there was this movie called The Eagle Huntress that we saw here. It was so great. In that movie, I'm trying to remember, what was the eagle chasing in the final?
Fox.
Chasing a real fox, right? Yeah. Well, they like to say that there's no animals hurt in the carrying on of these games except the goat in the kokbaru. So all of the dog racing, the eagle, the hawk, and the falcon hunting is all done with lures of some kind, being pulled by a horse, being swung around in the air and things like that. And so it's all issues relating to how fast the bird will get to the lure. And then they keep a big scoreboard to see and things like this. And this Kyrgyz guy's golden eagle won first prize. Okay. And now this is interesting because this guy is holding something in his hand right there. This is the dad of the eagle hunter guy. Well, a lot of the photographs you see in our shop are pictures that Sharon took because a guy with a camera is much more of an authority figure and kind of a threat than a girl with a camera. And we discovered early on that she does the photographs of people. But part of it is also warming them up. And the way we warmed so many of these people up that you see around in our shop was by taking a Polaroid picture of them and giving it to them, you know. And once you gave them this, and of course they'd look at it and shake it to make it, you know, come on, then they were very happy to have their own picture taken. And so many of these pictures were from people that already had Polaroids. Well, Polaroid is out of business. But Fuji now has 3 different sizes of instant cameras that are a la Polaroids. And you can buy them on Amazon or at Costco. And I bought one of the smaller ones that has something that is really a crummy little picture. It's about half the size of a normal Polaroid. But it was still an instant picture, you know. And sure, everybody has smartphones now and can take pictures, but it's still, you know, can't get it to them. So what I was doing throughout a lot of these is you'll see one guy holding in his hand like this a little Fuji Polaroid that I had taken already, and then they're perfectly happy to have their pictures taken. So he's the winner of the Eagle contest, okay? Now, as you're looking all around, you see hundreds of cars out there and things like this, and this archery, and this is our first day there, and we look out there and say, what? There's an American flag sitting out there along with all these other flags of all these different nations. And this was, turns out, a team from Texas. And we had just seen that guy in that other video before we started, talking about, he does traditional archery, and he put together a bunch of his buddies, a couple of men and women, and came out and competed in the archery contest. The only part that they didn't compete in was the horseback archery. And that's the one that we are going to try to encourage Ella to compete in the next, combining her 2 favorite sports, horses and archery.
In 2 years there's going to be another?
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, and we'll see that. We have a video of that later.
Fred, how do you get to Kyrgyzstan? What do you find?
Well, you can fly 3 different ways. You can fly from Seattle to Seoul, Korea, and then Seoul to Almaty in Kazakhstan and go down. Or you can fly by way of Istanbul, or you can fly by way of Moscow. And we found that it was easier to go by way of Korea from West Coast to the U.S. It was cheaper, and it was a one-stopper, you know, long overnight kind of stay in Korea, but it's a simple, easy airport to get around and things like that. So that's what we did.
I just found out that they'll give you a room overnight. Did you find that out?
Yeah.
Oh, you did find that out. Okay.
Okay, so moving right along, this girl here and her trainer, she won the horseback archery contest, and she is a Bashkir from Bashkiristan in the Russian Federation. And moving right along. And these are a couple of Kyrgyzstan Dr. Seuss hats. And moving right along, another guy with his eagle coming down on his horse, either going or coming from the competition. Okay. And cell phone towers, of course, you got to have your generator-powered cell phone towers, so everybody's cell phones will work. And so there was a couple of those around the valley as well. Okay, and then this is a bunch of Kazakh women singers, a choir, and I had given them a couple Polaroids, and so they had some me in my dark glasses and beard in there next to them.
Did the people from Tuva bring their throat singers?
There weren't, interestingly enough, there was Tuvan archers, and there may have been throat singing. There was Mongolian throat singing.
Oh, they were.
Yeah, because there was a big talent show in which everybody got to do their thing. And it was just endless, and we got so tired we left. And I was really interested to wait to see what, we watched the Botswanans and the Togolese on their stilts and things like this. And I was really wondering what the Americans were going to do. Were they going to sing Home on the Range or whatever? What? I don't know, because we got tired and left before it was their turn. Because they went A through, and so, Okay, next. And everybody's just sitting around playing and singing and just having great times, and they're, okay, here you go. And a lot of weaving going on. There's a Kyrgyz girl weaving a yurt strap, which are these kinds of interesting weavings where you've got basically a whole bunch of long warp threads, and then you're basically doing a depressed weft kind of weaving on that. Okay, and this is interesting because once you get past Uzbekistan, Bukhara and those Silk Road cities, where all the camels are dromedary, or single hump ones, you suddenly, once you get into Kyrgyzstan, they turn to Bactrian camels. And I don't know enough about camel culture to understand, is it a altitude thing, like yaks at different altitudes and things like that, as opposed to oxen at lower altitudes or what. But once you get into Kyrgyzstan and farther into western China, it's all two-humpers. And so here was one of the two-humpers we saw with a nice pretty cover on it right there. Okay. And then people are basically taking these three little trolleys back and forth along through the earth. And more people singing and stuff like this. These big poles that they had here are actually a game that they did at the beginning, which was like jousting. They would put like a boxing glove on the end of these sticks, and they would go charging at each other and trying to knock themselves off the horses and things. But that wasn't a formal sport that was being played. Okay. Here's some singing. Anyway, and then this is another one. These are Uzbeks. With this one. We have one of these horns right over here that people borrow for their weddings over the island. Remember where those South Africans got the idea for those plastic horns they used for the World Cup? Anyway, oh, this is my favorite little dance scene. Okay. Anyway, everybody's just having a great time. All these different nationalities. And here's this guy holding, see, he's holding his little Polaroid in his hand so I could take his picture. He's got more
Why
medals.
did you talk him into taking a picture in the first place?
Well, I said, can I take your picture? And
Oh,
then I'd
okay.
do it and give him the copy, and then he'd say, then now can I take my picture with you? And they'd always say, sure, as they would sit down. Okay. And then this is interesting, because this is like a 10-year-old boy doing a tightrope thing.
Wow.
Up there all by himself. And do we have this? Yeah. This was getting late in the afternoon, so the shadows had fallen over the mountains.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, a lot of interesting stuff. And this is sort of hard to tell because you can't make it bigger. But there is three guys, there's a sleeping baby on the horse in the front. The dad has my Polaroid in his hand, and there's a third, the other son is behind him, and they're watching the tightrope walking kid. And this is some of the medal ceremonies out there. This is the guy from Oman winning one of the dog races. And then this is a Russian woman that won second place. And then the Kyrgyz guy, well, maybe she got third place. So the Kyrgyz dog guy had second place.
What kind of dogs were they?
Like greyhounds. There's a, if the sport is there such thing as a wolfhound? Okay, these are wolfhounds.
Irish wolfhound.
Because there's, and yeah, because they weren't greyhounds, they were a different kind of dog with longer hair, and I think we have a picture of, or a video of one of them as well. Okay, and then